Yo, 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 welcome to Crate 808, and today we continue our big debate about which hip-hop act has the best 3-album run of the 90s. For those who tuned in to the last episode, you know that we spoke to the incredible run of Ice Cube with Complex's very own Sean Totaro, diving into America's Most Wanted, Death Certificate, and the Predator albums. I mean, that's a run. That is a run. But today we have something that's going to be just as special because we're going to be yeah, there it is. We're going to be talking about Tupac, and the man who's going to bring that argument is the same man who helped break Chance the Rapper, Chief Keef, and obviously the owner and founder of Fake Shore Drive, and the best follow on Rap Twitter, man. You're the best follow on Rap Twitter right now. Oh, Andrew Barber is in the house.
Stop it. Stop gassing me. Stop gassing me.
I'm serious, man. It's just like, here's another retweet, here's another like, here's an...
I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm
nah, man, how you doing?
I'm cool, man. You know, just here in Chicago, navigating the current climate that we're in, and trying to make the most of it, as we all are.
Yeah, man. I feel you. 2020.
You know, it affects all of us. It doesn't matter where you are. You know, you're over in the UK, and it's the same deal for you guys. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, man. And the weird thing is, it's just been a year of stellar hip hop. Well, I think anyway. I thought it's crazy. There's actually been so much good music, and I don't get to see any of it live or in the clubs or anything. It's just like, yeah, we're just hearing it at home kind of thing.
I agree. I think it's been a great year for hip hop, and it's a lot of stuff that maybe wouldn't get the attention it would have in another year when people were outside. I think more people have been able to sit down and really listen and digest things. And so I think it's been a good year for, like, maybe more lyrical hip hop or more, stuff that's a little more dense.
That's interesting, man. Yeah. People got more time. People got more, like, attention can be grabbed by it, I suppose. Yeah. Good shout, man. I mean, we're going to be talking, well, I'd love to talk more about new hip hop with you, man. But today, the run you're bringing to the table, Me Against the World, All Eyes on Me, and the Don Killuminati 7-Day Theory. It's an incredible run, man. Just to give you just a disclaimer before we dive into this, I would say medically obsessed with Tupac as a kid. So like the last 2 albums on that run are kind of seminal in my experience. Yeah, so same. I maybe the bias and the fanboy may come out if Andrew is bringing this fire. So Andrew, thank you for bringing Pac.
I'm glad I was able to do it. I wasn't sure how many people would be fighting to try to do Tupac, but then I got to remember, like, people on rap Twitter, like, for the most part, don't like Tupac, so it might have been one for me.
It's true, man. It's true. There's well, yeah. I mean, I'm looking forward to the run. Before we jump into Pac, I need to ask you one thing, Andrew, man. What's the least hip hop thing you've done in the last 24 hours?
Take my kid to soccer practice.
Okay, yeah, fair. That's least hip hop.
That was definitely number one, no doubt.
Soccer dad in the house, love it.
Soccer dad in the building, baby.
Love it, man, love it. Well, I'm not going to take this any longer, man. Let's go. What's your opening argument for this run being the greatest 3-album run in the 90s, Andrew?
I mean, the argument can go very deep, but come on, like, what? As far as from a sales perspective, who sold more? That's just, and I don't even like to get in. I always say sales is a weak argument, but that's just like the first thing that popped in my head from a sales perspective. And this is an artist who was only out for 5 years. Like, he was only really known for 5, 6 years.
Yeah.
And he got better with every release. He got better and bigger with, like, every release. And, like, you really don't see that a lot. I mean, I think it's rare, especially in the 90s. Like, a lot of the albums that are held as the classics are the debuts, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Illmatic, Reasonable Doubt, Ready to Die.
Yeah.
You know, these are all, like, their first albums. Cuban Links, right? It's his first solo album. Like, these are regarded as classics, but it's always their first album. Like, Pac was just kept getting better. And I think each of these albums, while they all fit within the Pac canon, but they're all unique and all very different.
Yeah.
They're all like dark in their own way. And
Hundred
there's such a
percent.
thing when you have to dissect what was going on with Tupac. These albums this 3 runs came out in 2 years, 95,
That is
96,
crazy.
right?
Yeah.
And one of them's a double disc. So that's actually kind of like 4 albums. So it's just
Yeah.
his work ethic, his he always was getting better, and he was able to do like songs that were more, there wasn't a lot of like conscious records. There was some on there, but he was able to
Mm.
balance that type of stuff with hits. Like the dude could just make hits as well.
Yeah.
So it's like, a time capsule of 2 years, and for one of those years he was basically in prison, for 10 months or whatever. So, to
Yeah.
me, it was just an impressive run in a very short time.
Yeah. I think the shortest time for such a potent run as well. As in, like, you have to remember, he transcended. For me, he transcended the music. He became an icon on like when you think of reggae music, you think of Bob Marley. I bet there's a lot of people who thought about hip hop, especially back then, and Tupac was the first person you thought of. I mean, that energy he brought outside of the music, I think, just completely lifted these albums into like multi-genre, multi-generational, I would say, like icon. Like which
Right.
is
Yeah.
which is hard to compare in the 90s. There isn't anyone who's
I'm pretty sure we're around the same age.
Mm.
Granted, we were in different countries, but I think you were around too, so like how many rappers were household names at that time
Yeah.
in like
Yeah.
95, 96? How many were like that your grandparents knew or your mom and dad knew? Like you got Snoop Dogg,
Mm.
Hammer.
LL, Hammer for sure.
Hammer was
Vanilla
huge.
Ice, obviously. Yeah.
Vanilla Ice.
Yeah.
Pac. I mean, there's maybe
Mm.
one hand, maybe it might extend to 2 hands, but I'm saying household. There wasn't that many at the time, not like there is now.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And Tupac was that, and it was like his extracurricular activities that were keeping in the news. I remember Pac became like he. I remember I was young, and an early memory of school was like the teachers talking about this guy Tupac because he was on the news like literally every night for something that was happening. He's shooting off duty cops. He has the sexual assault trial. He has, he gets shot. All this stuff happened in like such a short time, and like he just like exploded. And then he went to prison as he, became like one of the most famous rappers in the world.
And at the same, that's so weird when you say it like in such a short time. I would argue, and we're going to dive into like these albums as we go. So if we do start with like Me Against the World, if you start with that 95, you think like not only is all that happening, but you at the granular level, what I find is this is an artist who kind of really finds his voice, and because the first few albums, although great, are like I don't know, a little bit, and they did, as you said, sales wise, they did really well. But Tupacalypse Now and Strictly for My Ends is like Strictly for My Ends. It almost becomes very Ice Cubey, very heavy with that bass, and then you go into Me Against the World, where it's like, oh, it's a little bit more. Oh, this is just me. I don't know. As a kid, I couldn't really compare him to anyone else on Me Against the World. There wasn't many others I could go, oh, that's what he's doing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think like for those first 2 albums, like some of them, I think like Tupacalypse Now, like he was kind of leaning into the digital underground stuff a little still.
For sure.
And that there's some really great songs on there. Then there's some stuff that I'm like, that I don't love. But and then Strictly, there was even like some Bomb Squad influence on some of those records at that time. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Even on Tupacalypse Now, like When My Homies Call even has like a
Yeah. For sure.
I loved records on those, but the whole album wasn't. I was fascinated by Tupac. I thought he was super dope. I thought he was one of the best, but like it wasn't like he had that classic. And then when Me Against the World came, it's like, dude, he figured it out. Like he found his footing. Dear Mama. And the eerie thing about Me Against the World to me still, that feels very dark because he wasn't there. Right? He was in prison at that time. So all the press shots are like older press pictures. Like a lot of them are older press pictures or stuff that he did right before he went in.
Yeah.
He's not in any of the videos. He
Mm.
wasn't even able to promote the album. Like, he was in prison during that whole thing.
But
So
it
like,
still went number one.
still went number. That was his first number one. And Dear Mama's a smash. And that's such an
Crazy.
unlikely. I mean, it's a great song. It still gets played. It resonates with everybody because everybody loves their mom. You know, for the most part, I think.
For sure.
Blanket statement, but most people love their mom, and everybody can
Yeah.
relate to it
Mm.
for the most part. And that's the lead-off single, and it's a slow, somber, sad. So like, even the cover art of that album, like, is just, it's a sad. I don't know, man. There's something about it that just gives me an eerie vibe to that album. The way that the cover was like colored, like the art on it, the back,
Yeah.
like, even the intro, when I still play the intro on that with the news clips
Yeah.
playing, it gives me chills.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
25 years later.
That's so true, man. It's that, you know, when you say give me chills, just to make this conversation about like Pac as well as a person, like this album run is to look at like the evolution of an artist, how he changed and stuff like that. But what struck me going back, especially watching interviews with him, is he's not just the evolution of like hip hop. There's evolution of like the civil rights movement, of the Black Panthers, of people like Chuck D, Ice Cube, they come through him, but also Fred Hampton, Stokely Carmichael. You have all of the, because he is so clever. And I'm telling you, man, going back when I watched that BET interview with Ed Gordon, remember that famous one that he did?
Yeah.
All of the things I kind of want to say about this album run are in that kind of 25-minute conversation, because he's mesmerizing, man. Like, I can't take my eyes off him. He's just clever, he's articulate, and when you think he's doing that as this album comes out, I'm like, wow, this album, that Me Against the World, it has more conscious stuff on this than I would. I think it completely disappears by the time it gets to All Eyes on Me, but
Right.
it comes back. It comes back at the tail end. It comes back on Makaveli. I think Makaveli brings that back.
Yeah. And I mean, he was in a different headspace when he made All Eyes on Me. You know what I mean? It was a
100%.
glow up of sorts between those two albums, and new anger and new money and a lot of things going on with his life. But like, Me Against the World was just a really dope record, and I think a lot of people would say that was probably their favorite one. Not everybody.
Oh, really? You think?
But I see people arguing that, people do those polls on Twitter. A lot of people will say that's their favorite one.
Wow.
And maybe it's the least. It's not mine, but it's up there. But like, those first like 4 or 5 songs are just crazy. Like, the first like 5 songs on there are just crazy. Like, the way it's sequenced.
Yeah, it's sequenced amazingly.
Because I'm just trying to go off like muscle memory here. Like, what is it? The intro, If I Die Tonight, Me Against the World, So Many Tears, and Temptations. I think those are the first 5 songs.
Oh, really? Is it? Oh, yes, it is. Yeah. Temptations. Yes. Yeah.
I mean, that's insane.
But isn't it weird, right? When you have that sequencing's amazing. But when I listen to this album, maybe it's because the seminal album for me was All Eyes on Me, and then 7 Day, and then I went back to this. There's no club banger. There's no like, let's get like All Eyes on Me, basically, which is pretty much chock full of.
It's all bangers. It's all that.
Yeah, it's all bangers, and it's all more like very introverted. But like you said, still, Temptations is a great track. Listen to that track now, man. You're like, that is wicked.
Really, because I just had to look up make sure I was correct. Yes, Temptations. And like, dude, Easy Mo B did that one.
Yeah, Mo B, man. When he
did If I Die Tonight, like, so.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. The way that he just put those songs were put together was just crazy to me.
Yeah, and I can't help but think when you hear something like that as a piece of work, which is in essence, I would say, quite a bluesy. It's a blues record, man. Like, that's what they were doing, Muddy Waters and that. That's exactly the trials and tribulations they're talking about. But he's talking about a young person, a young black person in America that doesn't give a shit about him. And there's some brilliant stuff again in that interview where he says stuff like, people talk about his, you're trying to be a thug, but you're also an activist, and you're saying this about thug life. And he was like, look, I'll start talking better when I live better. We as a community will start like how can we talk about better things if we don't experience these better things? And it's a very simple way of looking at things, and it's so direct. Same as his rhyming. Like, I know we're going to talk about his rhyming at some point, and I was going to say people will be like, "Oh yeah, he's not in your top 5 or whatever," but listen to "If I Die Tonight" and the way he comes in on that, and it's just like, yeah, just the P's, the way he
Yeah,
hits
I mean
those.
that because what is it? Can you picture my prophecy? Was that on?
Yeah.
That's on me against the world. Like he's doing like alliteration. Like he has a lot of really clever stuff, and
Mm,
it always like the thing that people the and I promise I never saw that. I never heard anybody say Pac like couldn't rap until like Twitter. I never like
oh, nice.
when I was
Okay.
young. I never heard anybody complain about like, oh, he's not lyrical. He's not this, and because it
Yeah.
wasn't about that. It was about did you feel what he was like? Did you feel what he was saying? Did you get the message? You
Yes,
know,
that's it.
and I think that was always the thing. Like he may not be doing like crazy cannabis bars, but did a cannabis song? You know, did his songs ever hit you the way that did? Did it
Absolutely, man.
make people feel something? Like you know, I just
Yeah.
remember you know when Pac died, and I'm sure we'll talk about this later, and kids were crying like that. You know, the
Mm,
two biggest things that I remember of celebs dying from when I was a
mm,
kid was that and Kurt Cobain.
yeah. And they're the two that affected me as a kid.
Yeah,
And they were so different, but I think the mythos, well, there's a mythos around Cobain for sure, absolutely. But the mythos around Pac was, as you said there, about that stuff outside of it, which launched him into our everyday lives, where it was like, it's just odd. I remember there was times at that point I'd never ever had someone I loved that was in jail, or I didn't really know what even sexual assault was
right,
as a very young kid.
right.
So it was like, hold on, but he's protesting and saying he's innocent. And as you get older, you start reading more about it, you educate yourself, and that in its own twisted way was like, oh, I learned like a bit about the law and how to respect women, even though, and his
Right,
lyrics
right.
do go on onto that kind of stuff as well. It's really odd, like how that worked out in my life.
Yeah, because like you know, I was young and I didn't really understand. Now I have a much more understanding of that, and you know, I think you
Mm,
just assume that people are 100% innocent when you just believe. You
yeah,
know, the internet wasn't. It was around. It certainly didn't exist in the way that it does now, and
100%.
you
Yeah.
know, it just like you know, obviously that is a huge issue, but you know,
Mm,
he was Tupac almost felt like a I don't know, just like a super. It's just there was so much that happened in such
mm,
a short amount of time that it was like almost hard to process it all.
yeah.
And then all this is happening as his music is skyrocketing.
And that's the thing. I think sometimes the music gets left behind a little bit, like because the other stuff is so massive
Mm-hmm.
that goes on in his life. And we've not even talked about Death Row. Yeah, I can't believe we started a podcast about Tupac and Death Row's brought up like 20 minutes in. But it is genuinely one of the moments where you're like, wow, like we've not even talked about Suge and all that and All Eyes on Me when it goes to that. But before we move on to that album, I did want to ask you a bit about the like we have Hidden Gems, and I was wondering if you thought if there was any on these albums, especially like the first one of this run, where you would be like, you know what, that track probably deserves more love, or you know something that you think you've dusted off recently, where you've been like, yeah, man, that's still a banger.
You know the one that everybody that was not a single, that was not one of those first five records that
Mm,
everybody played and like everybody was like people were writing it on their backpacks. I remember, and
yeah.
anybody with a system would play this one. Was Outlaw.
Oh,
Outlaw was the one, dude. Outlaw. I hate to say the streets, but you know, because I wasn't
yeah,
in the
yeah,
streets, I was a child. But Outlaw, song number 15. Uh,
yeah,
that was the and Dramacidal was on that, who became two of the members of the Outlaws.
yeah.
Three of the members of the Outlaws. What I forget how many people were in Dramacidal. I think Dramacidal was three people, two or three people. I can't remember exactly, but
Okay.
um, dude, Outlaw was the one. And
Yeah.
anybody that had a system, that was
Hmm.
the song that they would play because the bass is crazy on that one. And so Outlaw,
Shit.
I think, is the sleeper song on there, and that's probably my favorite song on there too.
Damn. Andrew, have you got an outlaw tattoo? Tell me if you've got an outlaw
No, no,
tattoo.
I have zero. I have zero tattoos. But dude, I remember after Tupac died, I knew people that were getting outlaw tattoos and were getting,
Shit.
getting
Yeah,
his different tattoos. Like
that's
people were
crazy.
serious about
He but he was clever, man. Like we had Chi Modu on. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Chi Modu's work, but he did a lot of the photography on for the 90s hip hop, especially.
Yeah, he's of course, yes.
And he was talking about shooting Pac, and like he said, he knew, man, he knew the power of the image. So all them tattoos, the nose piercing, he was like, I'm sorry, man, I'm watching him in these interviews. He's fucking beautiful, man. You're like, this guy is like, it's almost like they've constructed it, like the bandana and everything. He's very, very aware of his construction, if you know what I mean.
Let me ask you this. I hate to cut you off, but
For sure.
now this is something that I feel, and then let me know if you feel the same way. When you watch these old interviews or you see like him talking now, it almost feels like it wasn't real, like it didn't happen. Like this is a character. It's like,
Yeah.
because it happened so long ago, and you see it, and like everything looks so, like you said, it looks so perfect. The way his bandana's tied.
Yeah.
It's like, man, did this really even happen? Like,
Yeah.
dude was like just such a shooting star, and then it was just over. And it's, you know, it was only 3 to 5 years that he was the guy, and then it was just over. And he's been dead way longer than, it's just so, you know.
Yeah.
Weird,
No,
weird for me to watch those now.
I do completely feel that. I have to say, I was watching it back mainly for this episode, but also like, I don't know, it's a weird, it's almost like a scab for me, where it's like, if I take that off a little bit, I don't know how I'm going to feel, because he was my real big entry point, like obsession going into hip hop. Since then I've grown, man, and I know to like kind of kill my heroes. Like, I don't need to like be obsessed with them, because they not necessarily might not be great people, but their music's amazing. With him, it's odd when I went back and I was like, and it kind of reaffirmed a lot of things where I was like, he is a very complicated individual, just like Ice Cube. We talk about this run that we're talking about, like of people that have done these amazing albums. Ice Cube's very complicated. You can't, he's not an easy follow. Pac is exactly the same, but what I found with Pac was, at least he was aware that he when he was saying like, I'm like my community, man. Like, there's one part of me that will diss women and blah blah blah. And there's another part of me that will lift women up who have been really good for us. And it's such a complex person, doing complex music, that when I watched this stuff, it reaffirmed where I was like, yeah, man, he was, but he was so young. He was so young, man. He was 23, 24, man. Like, when he's in his 30s, I reckon he would have cycled back to a lot of that stuff. And you'd hope that he would have been like remorseful about some of the stuff and stuff.
You know, you can't do it's hard to do fan fiction, but you know, there was so
Yeah.
much greatness. There was so much greatness and like awareness and things that he could have done to change the world. I believe that were coming, you know, down the road for him.
Yeah,
because he was speaking on stuff in a way that, like, I don't know. To me, it was hitting kids differently, because I don't know, he was younger or cooler, but like the stuff that he was saying, he was making it it easy for kids of different races and ethnicities and cultures to really cling on to and learn from. I don't know if it was because it was Tupac, but he was just such a charismatic person that people, you know, were listening to him.
And that's true. And you know what? It's like I said, not just cross-dimensional, but like cross-generational, but cross-race as well. Like, bare white people here like love Pac and stuff like that, and Asians, man, we love him. He's our favorite rapper.
You'll meet white people who are racist that love Tupac. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like,
makes no sense.
It doesn't make any sense at all. Like, people just loved him. You know, everybody, all races, at least how I remember, everybody, you know, loved Tupac.
Yeah. No, that's interesting, because let me ask you this then. Would you say, before we jump into the next album, because at this point he is acting, I think he's acting. He's definitely done Juice. I'm sure he's done Above the Rim as well. Do you think he was a better actor than rapper? Or do you think... Because I could see that argument.
I was more into the music.
Right.
He was dope as an actor. I just thought he was dope. Anything. Like,
right.
I think it was a few years later where... once people started becoming actors, the fans became less interested in the music. Like, that was a thing. That was a thing eventually. But with Tupac, it was never really that. Now, you know, I don't know why that is, but people, like, you know, it was one of those things. Like, girls loved him.
Yeah.
Like, the ladies were going to see Poetic Justice and anything that he was a part of.
It's true.
I remember that. I remember they, girls were going crazy for him. And
Yeah.
guys liked him too. He was able to get you know what I mean? Like guys and girls
Mm.
loved him.
There's two what if moments I do remember. One I couldn't actually believe was true, that he read for Bubba in Forrest Gump, and I was like, well what? And I remember
Heard
thinking
that.
that's just yeah, and
That's true.
yeah, like he's known to have read for that, and I was like, what? That's crazy. And then there was mate, get this one right. There was an action buddy comedy with him and Snoop called Two Strikes Nothing Left, about to come out on Death Row. And I was like, that I'm here for that. Like, I am ready for that. Like
That would have
now,
been
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. So, but that's the levels he was going on. Like, if you're acting beside Tom Hanks, do you know what I mean? Like, that's a level outside of rap. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So when we go to All Eyes on Me, I mean, he's been in jail for probably a year or something. I don't know, I can't remember. Something like roughly
Yeah.
around that. And then he hits death row, bails him out. Shug bails him out. Before we dive into the album, one thing about these runs I like to look back on. So we have Tribe, Della, Ice Cube, Outkast. And I look to today, 2020, and I think, oh, you can kind of find some threads in the sound we listen to now, the people we listen to now. Can you see, is there a thread from this run to today? Can you see like a sound that's or even like rappers that are doing things that are similar to what Pac brought to the game?
No,
Mm,
I don't think so. I mean, I
I'm
don't know
saying.
how you could even compare it because it's such a shift to me
Mm,
between um, Me Against the World and All Eyes on Me.
mm,
If you look at Me Against the World, there's what one. He's working with a lot of East Coast producers on that.
yeah.
He has one song with Johnny J on there. I think Johnny
Mm-hmm.
J did Death Around the Corner.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Um, then on All Eyes on Me, it's basically Johnny J and Daz did half the album.
Yeah.
And then he's working with a bunch of other people. So he leaned into California hard on All Eyes on
Mm,
Me. Like that was a West Coast album
mm, yeah.
where
100%.
where I don't necessarily feel like Me Against the World is like a super West Coast album. It doesn't have like a West Coast vibe to it in
Yeah.
a way that All Eyes on Me does.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think not only does he lean into that West Coast vibe, it's that thing that I mean, I'm sure you've read quite a few things about Pat growing up, but like, I remember one of the things they said that I remember reading was he when Pat loved something, he loved it so hard. And that's what makes me think this album is. It's just like a love letter, like to not just the West Coast, but to people who helped bailed him out. So he loved Death Row so hard at that time. And he had the chain. It was the centerpiece of the album cover in a way, like him holding with the chain. And you're like, there's this moment when you look at back and you think, man, he loved that so hard that even the sound of it, he was ready to just be like, let's go fully that way.
He leaned all the way into it.
Mm,
And
mm.
that's when he really placed his flag on like I am West Coast, I am Bay, I am LA, I am
Yeah,
Death
yeah.
Row in a way that he didn't on those previous three albums because he didn't, I guess on the
Mm,
first, it's kind of like I'm Digital Underground, but it wasn't like, the way that he leaned into the Death
yeah,
Row. It was like, okay, I'm a star. Like
yeah,
I am now the number one act in rap music. Like I am the number one rapper in the world now. I am here.
yeah.
I am free. I am with the number one label
Mm,
in the world, rap label in the world,
yeah,
and I drop I come out and I record this album in 2 weeks or whatever,
yeah.
and I got Dr. Dre on my first single,
That
and the
was a good choice.
video is insane.
Yeah, yeah. Videos, the remix video.
He's coming off that number one. He's free. First of all, everybody's so hyped that Pac is free,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
He's the number one. I would say it by Me Against the World. Like, who are the top rappers in the world at that moment?
You talking about sales or in the
Not even sales. Just who's up there? Snoop, uh,
yeah, Snoop for sure.
Pac, Biggie's climbing up.
Big,
95's
big,
big year for Big. Uh,
Biggie's going up. Biggie's going on the rise because I think at this time he's making Life After Death. I think he's making it. So, or he's at least
he's
starting.
still summer 95. So when we go back 25 summers, summer 95 is Junior Mafia Players Anthem.
Yep.
One More Chance remix.
Biggie's huge, man.
Total Can't You See is out. And Ready to Die is still, you know. So big is getting up there.
Bringing it, yeah. And that's a real point when West Coast is dominated. I suppose Wu obviously brought it back east as well.
I was gonna say Method Man, out of the Wu, Method Man is the biggest star of the Wu-Tang at that time.
For sure. Who's on this album? So that East Coast thing, him and Red on the album
was crazy.
I enjoyed that. Yeah.
But at the time, you got Death Row was the hottest label, at least where I was, right? You know,
yeah.
I'm
in the
on
world,
the East Coast. I'm in the Midwest, right? So that is the biggest. That to me at the time, that's the biggest label. And think about what they had put out up until that point. They'd only put out 4 or 5. They're not like No Limit where they're dropping 20 CDs a year. They're being very careful.
Yeah.
In crafting like perfect projects. So they got the Chronic, they got Doggy Style, they got Above the Rim soundtrack, they got Murder Was the Case soundtrack, and
Dog Food out there? Yeah, Dog Food's out, right?
They got 5 albums out, all hits.
Fire, yeah.
All huge. And then they got now they have Tupac?
Yeah,
they got
true.
They got Snoop and Tupac and Dr. Dre.
And not just that, man. They amplify the drama of Pac's life and mold it to that death row thing, that East-West thing that clearly people talk about now, the East-West Coast beef. And the more and more I've dug into these albums, especially 7 Day Theory, you can start looking at it and going, yeah, that beef was very, very particular. As in, like, there's certain people he's beefing with. He ain't beefing with other East Coast people. Again, this album has East Coast acts on it. So clearly he isn't. You know, Wu were nowhere to be seen.
To like a lot of the stuff that was on the Makaveli bootlegs, which we could talk about that later too, because those were huge at the time, late 90s. Those were flying around flea markets across the country, probably across the world, where he had he had hundreds of songs that got leaked.
Yeah,
he had a bunch of songs that eventually people would know about, but you know, he had songs with Boot Camp Click, he had songs with Big Daddy Kane, he had songs with Greg Nice. So like you said, it wasn't an East versus West thing. It was he had beef with certain rappers. He had issues with certain rappers.
Do you think he made? Okay, let me phrase this a different way. If you're an MC, who do you least want coming at you? Ice Cube or Tupac? If they're coming at you on record.
Tupac.
Yeah. Because I hear No Vaseline, and I have this argument, a lot of people, best diss record of all time. And like, it clearly is incredible. It clearly is. And he decimates them systematically. But if you do listen to Hit 'Em Up, oh man, like, it's the vitriol. It's this, it's almost unhinged, man.
I don't think we'd ever heard anything completely unhinged like that at the time.
Right. Interesting.
I think maybe No Vaseline is as unhinged as a diss record probably got. Dre Day, you know, was funny. So like Schoolyard stuff.
Yeah.
You know, Real Motherfucking G's was out. Easy E. That was a big diss record too at the time. You know, so there was, but like, dude, he went above and beyond on to where if you remember, Hit 'Em Up was on the maxi single. Like Hit 'Em Up was not on an album. You had to go buy the California Love, How Do You Want It? Maxi single for Hit 'Em Up, and everybody went and bought that just for that song.
Yeah. And then you have the video on top, man. It's the end bit. It's the outro. And the thing about All Eyes on Me, for all the stuff we talked about with Me Against the World, there are, again, he's completely shedded that kind of social. Like, there are moments on it clearly where he's talking about his community. It's a double album. There are some tracks, but 90% of it is flossing, and then it goes into that moment where you're like, it's every track has chatting shit at the end. Like, it's like his 40 seconds and then just chatting shit about people.
Yeah.
And done well, though. Like, done well. Actually, talking about the end of tracks, he talks about California Love, man, right? California Love remix is clearly one of the best tracks of all time, but mainly because of the Zap outro, man. Because that outro, it goes on for so long, the music cuts and you've just got Zap just almost like scatting with his.
Dude, people used to
Love that video.
run to the TV when that would come on. People loved the remix
Yeah.
video. I personally did too, more than the other version. The Mad Max
Absolutely, yeah.
version, because
Yeah.
the remix video was like party, and E40's
Party.
in it, and DJ Quick is
Yeah.
in it,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
all these different, like, Richie Rich, Be Legit, they're all, and so everybody's, oh,
Mm.
there's Richie Rich, there's B, like, so people
Yeah, yeah.
really loved the remix.
I prefer the remix of the song as well because that's the first one I heard. I hadn't heard the original. I heard that one, and it's got that West Coast, just got more of that West Coast kind of vibe to it
I
for me.
forget why the original wasn't on the album.
Yeah, I don't actually know either. Actually, I don't actually know.
I know the answer to this, but I can't remember it right now. I don't know why they didn't put it on. Maybe
Well,
I
people
can
out there,
imagine
man,
there
hit
was a
us up.
sample issue because Death Row made shit happen back then.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, man, for sure. But get in touch, man, people, if you know that, and let us know, man, for sure. There's hidden gems on this album all over it, by the way. The Ambitions as a Rider for me is one of my favorite Tupac tracks generally.
If you go to Spotify, is that his most played track? I think it might be.
Really,
Yeah,
really,
which is crazy.
that is crazy. I'd have thought All Eyes on Me, Dear Mama.
Nah, dude. Ambitions as a Rider by 100 million plays.
What?
Yeah, Ambitions as a Rider is his #1 song.
Not a hidden gem at all.
It has 200 million more plays than Dear Mama.
Because I was going to ask you, what song is he best known for? And in my head, automatically, Dear Mama pops up because it's Dear Mama, isn't it? And maybe over here, Changes was huge because he just died and stuff like that. But I was thinking California Loves and blah. But yeah, what song is that? His best known song then? Ambitions of Rider. That's crazy.
And I mean, this isn't a proper gauge because things have changed, but it's weird to look at his top 5 songs on Spotify. Ambitions as a Rider, All Eyes on Me, which I wouldn't have guessed. That's his #2. That's his #2 most streamed song.
That's mad. Brilliant song though.
And then
Brilliant
Changes,
song.
and then Dear Mama, and then Keep Your Head Up.
Wow. Wow. Okay, I'm gonna have to
wild,
shift
right?
I'm gonna have to shift my perspective on this because again, we're '90s heads, man. Like, I know what happened then. I know what happened in my life. As a wider thing, I wasn't privy to that apart from the charts. And Ambitions as a Rider was not hitting any charts. So, do you know what I mean? It's crazy. That's crazy.
Everybody loved
man.
that because it was a lead off. Everybody loved that song.
Oh, it kicked off that album. Amazing.
Because it samples the Pee Wee dance. It samples that old Pee Wee.
Yeah.
And Daz just, to me, Daz and Johnny J are like the unheralded stars of this project.
Yes.
It did damn near half the album.
Yeah. Mate, Daz was all over the Chronic as well. Like, if you look at some of the stories, it's like Daz was kind of all over that as well. So, I mean, Daz deserves a lot more props.
I'm a big Daz Dillinger Dog Pound fan. So,
man, mate, come back on to do the Dog Food album because I would love that.
I'd talk about Dog Food all day. That's probably my favorite rap album of all time. That's one. Some days I would say I love Dog Food. I think it's amazing the way it's mixed and sequenced and everything. But that's
yes. Andrew, I'm here for all of this. This is what I'm talking about, man. Yes. If we're looking at the most rewindable Tupac tracks for yourself, though, I'm just putting mine out there. Can't See Me, No More Pain, probably Picture Me Rolling. Those are the ones I end up rewinding a lot. Is there stuff that you have on this album or generally that you would say are the most rewindable for you?
Dude, you said No More Pain, right?
Yeah, love that.
That's the one that Devontae did. That
Timbaland,
supposedly Timbaland ghost produced that.
Yeah. So I found out on Twitter this week. I just tweeted out that it's still an incredible track, and someone was like, "Oh, that's Timbaland's track." He just took it or something. Timbaland wrote about it in his book or something. But that amazed me because I didn't know. Because a lot of my respect, I love Jodeci, but for Devontae was from that track where I was like, "Wow, he's just absolutely nailed this." The lyrics on that. Yeah, crazy.
He was going in. He was a man possessed on that one. So I would say probably the one that we used to play the most was Picture Me Rolling. We loved Picture Me Rolling. Because the outro on that, Picture Me Rolling is such a good, just a great song. Like You know, his outro, the shit he's talking at the end of the song is legendary. That was one of my favorites. Heaven Ain't Hard to Find that QD3 did is a great one. And then Ain't Hard to Find. I like, because I was a big E40 and SIBO fan, and I love you legit too. But dude, SIBO was big in the 90s. I was in Indiana at the time, and SIBO was really big there. He was a Bay Area. I mean, I don't know how familiar you are with SIBO's catalog. But
I just listened to his first album again the other day. I haven't actually gone in on that discography. His features are what I know him for. That's what I know him for.
So, like, around that time, I think it was Gas Chamber, Autopsy, and Tales from the Crypt were his 3 albums. And he was DJ Screw's favorite rapper. Damn. I don't know if you knew that or not. DJ Screw's favorite rappers were, I think his 3 favorite rappers were SIBO, Tupac, and Pimp C. That's what I've heard. I don't know how true that is, but that's what I've heard. But SIBO was on there. He was on Trading War Stories too. Trading War Stories is amazing as well.
That is a shout. Yeah.
That was that Bay Area. They had like that super Bay Area mob music type of sound to them.
Love that. And again, this album is a masterpiece in that. It's when I say masterpiece, it's masterfully, first of all, EQ'd. Whatever engineering they've done on that is, I have no idea what they've put in that, but it sounds incredible to this day.
Quick did that.
Mixed it down, right? That's what I heard. And just so incredible. Good. That's genius, man. Like genuine genius right there.
It just sounds expensive. Like it's an album that it just sounds like, you know, that like this album from the samples to like, and it has such a texture to it because they had Death Row was in the best studios. I mean, they were, you know, they were at Can-Am, and I'm pretty sure they recorded the whole album at Can-Am. But dude, they had live session players, so they like that a lot of that bass is live. They have like live key, like dude, it sounds warm, like it has texture to it that a lot of other rap albums at the time. You know, Bad Boy started doing that shit too, where they were playing like a lot of live instruments, so it just makes it that much beefier.
Yeah. And that's another thing with this run, is it set that trend. As in, Puffy knew, man, once you hear that, right, Life After Death has to be that well produced. And I think
it was.
If I'm looking at
it was.
Yeah. And I'm looking at these runs that we've got. This one did it on a commercial level, so high on commercial level that although Tribe clearly are incredible at producing, and everyone else at Outkast as well, like theirs were done so well. This one just sold so many records. It's just crazy.
You want to talk about the high, and that's what I love. A lot of times, like people ask me what my favorite album from various artists is, and I always like, a lot of times I like them at their very height, like because it just comes out in the music. Like Life After Death is big at his height. Like he had figured it out. He had mastered it. He knew who he was. He knew what he wanted to sound like. And even Master P, like MP The Last Dawn, that's my favorite Master P album, just because he was at the height of his career. And people are just on another, like, you know, they're kind of on another level at that time. They're pulling, they're channeling something else at that time. That's why it's on top. And that's why All Eyes on Me is always my favorite. That's probably my favorite album of all time. Definitely my favorite Tupac album. But like that and Dog Food are like my 2 of my favorite albums ever.
I was going to ask you which one of these run was your favorite, but yeah, I'm with you. All Eyes on Me is mine as well. We talked about Tupac there earlier, about like obviously a goat of sorts. People always put him in the conversation. Less so nowadays for other reasons. But for you, top 5, does Pac get in the 5 for you?
He's number 1. He's always been number 1.
Okay.
Who's the rest? And I tweeted a list that I'd found from 1997, like last month, like in July sometime. I had found a list. There was no actual I had no like context. It was just like a list of 20 rappers. So I'm assuming that those were like my favorite 20 rappers at the time. And number one was Tupac.
Yeah.
And number 2 was Corrupt, which is funny. And then I had like Jay on there. I had Jay at like number 10 or something like that. Big was on there. Nas.
Yeah.
8 Ball and MJG. I had Andre and Big Boy on there.
Mm.
It's pretty fun. It was pretty funny to go back and look at it because I definitely had Jay on there before Volume 1. I had Jay on there like a reasonable doubt. I don't think many people.
Oh,
I don't think many people had Jay on their list.
yeah.
Volume 2.
That's a good list, man. Corrupt, but at that time though, he was.
I had Razkaz on there too.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and the stuff he was doing with Dre afterwards on Assassination and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Forget it.
Yeah.
Forget it, man. Okay, like that, man. I like it. Before we move on to the Don Killuminati, man, I had to give some love to Made Ends from the Gang Related soundtrack because
Oh,
that sort of came out in the midst of it all. Oh, man. I used to love that track so much, man. So, yeah, shout out to that track.
think about all the loose songs that like didn't make All Eyes on Me.
Yeah.
Made it was on the Gang Related soundtrack, which came out right
Yeah.
after he died.
Yeah.
Year after he died. And that they had Life So Hard, which is on
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
It was somebody was I watched some interview the other day when somebody was saying that was their favorite Tupac song. Daz produced the one that's on Gang Related, but there's another version. I think it samples like Pink Floyd or Metallica or something. Somebody.
What?
If you look up the original version of Life So Hard, it's crazy.
Because that's mad. Because, but right, just giving you insight from where I was, I didn't really get any access to this track except for really Yo MTV Rap. So
yeah,
was it Yo MTV Rap? Someone played the Made Ends, you know, the video where it's all one take, and they just got that camera, they're running around the room.
spinning around.
That's it. Yeah. That was where I'd first heard that. I didn't even know.
You know where you probably heard it and saw it on one of those Death Row VHS movies.
VHSs. Yeah, we all had them. Yeah.
Because Death Row was selling like that's where I saw it. I didn't see. I think it might have been the Death Row Uncut video that had like the extended version of Two of America's Most Wanted video where he has the sequence with Puff and Big. It has Hit 'Em Up, Made, and videos that like Tupac videos that had never come out.
Yeah, man. And again, lyrically, you talk about these things. The way he's spitting on these just loosies as well as the stuff on the albums is just like we said earlier, finding his voice and getting to the point where, I mean, he almost transcends top fives. I think Hip Hop DX did a really, really good video on that. I think it was Mers who was like, it's hard to put him in your top five because top fives are so odd because you think technicality, like technically spitting, pun is incredible. Of course he is, but kind of Pac just kind of grows out of that because it's not just about that. It's about everything. It's about the message. It's about the pit of the stomach rapping. Do you know what I mean? Like the way he used to just bring that out of him, crazy.
How he laid his vocals and everything, like.
Yeah, triple time, right? Triple layers. I heard like he was.
How many people did that? Like people like shit on Tupac now, like it's like a cool thing to do or whatever. But I don't think people really remember how many people were imitating Tupac after he died. Like I've never seen a rapper be more emulated and imitated than Tupac. Like when he was gone, how many people started rapping that way? Like and I love No Limit, but a lot of the No Limit stuff was Tupac karaoke. They were doing the same voice inflections. They were doing the double layers, triple layers, whatever. The way that he did it, the same subject matter, the same flows. Like how many rap? Like there was Black Hayes from Memphis who sounded just like him. Lil Zane, if you remember Lil Zane rapped just like Tupac.
Yeah.
Crazy, who was also on No Limit. There was just a lot of people who were. It was just such a jarring sound that and people just really were drawn to it. A lot of people copied it.
What I realized when I'd heard Pat really for the first time was he almost sings at points. Like if you look back at Temptations and the first album we talked about, he almost like sings little parts. Like it's weird. He's not just rapping. He's flowing. It's a flow, and it was just crazy how he would ride the beat. And it's not full of 100 words. Do you know what I mean? He's going to extend some words. He's going to do this. He's going to do that. But it just all marries up so perfectly. And I think people, it was really came to ahead for me when DMX came out. And when DMX came out, for people over here in my circles, it was very much like, oh, there was a Tupac-shaped hole, and now this guy's going to fill it, but do his own thing. And I think that's where it went from me, where it was like, it was about the pain, about the life, about the passion, and that's what DMX was bringing to me and Rough Riders generally when Pac had gone, kind of thing. We're talking 7 Day Theory then, man, and we're jumping into that mad album, right? Just the energy from the first like track, it's just so venomous for me. It's bitter, man. It's such a bitter album. Where are you standing on 7 Day Theory then and now?
Well, think about, okay, so I just want to put this into context. Think about Tupac was only on death row for like 10 months.
Yeah.
11 months. I think it was 11 months. He wasn't like, you think of the death row era as like years, like it happened, like it was a long thing. It was like, no. The dude got out, Tupac got out of prison, I think on like October 95, and by September 96 he was dead. So he wasn't even on death row for a full year. So he did all this in that span, a double disc, the Makaveli album, all those other Lucy's. He shot videos for like damn near for like so many songs. He was doing movies. I mean, the dude was his work ethic was crazy, and it almost blows my mind. It's like, dude, we all have the same amount of time in a year, in a day, or whatever. This dude was just utilizing every second of
everything.
And I think a lot of people are like, well, he knew he was going to die, or maybe he did, but I also think like he also thought he probably was going to might have to go back to prison, because he was just out on an appeal or bond or whatever. Like he had to like go fight his case again. So it wasn't like he was home free. He was out on bail, fresh out of jail. He said it himself.
Yeah.
So like he was trying to work in as much as he could.
Yeah.
But when we think about Makaveli, I know people are like, oh, it's a posthumous release or whatever, but it really wasn't, because I think he had it came out like a month or two after he died, but he really had control over, that, like he made that album. He knew that it was coming. And it's such a contrast to All Eyes on Me. Like it's such a different, to me, that's also like a eerie vibe album, like Me Against the World. Because Me Against the World had that eerie vibe that like, okay, he's in prison. This feels weird. He's out for All Eyes on Me. He explodes, becomes by far the biggest rapper on the planet. There's party songs. All these songs are getting played at parties. They're getting played on the radio. They're getting played on MTV, BET. This is all you're seeing. It's Tupac. Then he's just, all of a sudden he's dead. And then you get Makaveli. So it's like book it, like Me Against the World, dark period, Makaveli, dark period. Like it bookends like the end of that. And it's just really, like I still listen to Makaveli and it gives me like a weird feeling. It's still like, it's a scary, it's like a scary album. It just I don't know. It came out in November, and November in the Midwest, it's like, dude, it gets dark at like 4:30 p.m. in November. I always remember this because my birthday is in November. And it's like whenever my birthday is November 17th, and like it always gets dark at like 4 o'clock at that point. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's 4:30, it's dark out. And it just had a dark energy around it. It always made me feel that. It still does.
Yeah. And completely agree, man. Completely agree. It's not indie. Clearly it's not indie, but it's very well produced, but it's almost lo-fi in its feel, if you know what I mean. As in, it feels like it's not, I don't feel like it was rushed. 7 Day Theory, I'm going to do it in 1 week, smash it out, rough. Like the vocals, they sound eerie because they sound real, man. He's just going in. He's not even, he says, I'm going to slip up. I'm not going to be crisp clear all the time, but it's not about that. This album is about 7 days. Can we make it? I only just learnt about the Whack Room. Have you heard about the Whack Room at Death Row?
Yeah.
I didn't even know
the guys that were in the Whack Room, one of them for sure, maybe two of them are from Chicago.
Oh.
So like those dudes were out there with Kevin Lewis, who was Ramsey Lewis's son. I don't know if you knew Ramsey Lewis, the famous jazz for Chicago. His son was out there working for Death Row. I'm not sure how they all got connected. So and there was a lot of people from Chicago out there, and they were in the Whack Room. Nobody would go in the Whack Room, obviously. So Pac and the Outlaws went in the Whack Room, and they made, Makaveli, which became this masterpiece. Another one that people will say is their favorite Tupac album. I see Me Against the World and Makaveli more than I see people saying like All Eyes on Me is my favorite Tupac album. It's always those two
Oh,
for some reason.
it's a tough one to call, man, because as a kid, it's All Eyes on Me. Now it's All Eyes on Me. But I'm not gonna lie, man. In my 20s, where I'm trying to be a bit more like hipsterish or whatever it is, I did think 7 Day Theory is better than anything else he's made because, and I remember as a kid thinking, I get everything I want in 7 Day Theory. I've got bangers. I've got venom, as I've said, just vitriol. I've also got crazy white man's world. God, and again, on top of that, you've got all these other tracks. Against All Odds was my favorite Tupac track of all time growing up because,
really,
yeah, and it was just like it's the way it ends, man. He's dead. There's at that time, I don't know if there's going to be any more albums coming from him whilst like now, and it ends with him just going to war, and you're like, there's fucking missiles flying.
It ends with sounds like a war's going on.
And that just added to that enigma for me. All the conspiracy theories and the I Ain't Mad at You video, and that came out after he died. And then this comes out and people saying, oh, it meant this and it meant that. And you're like, what do I believe right now? I don't know what to believe right now.
The Suge Shot Me. Remember everybody was like, oh, it says Suge Shot Me on here. And then
Yeah.
And on the cover, like there was stuff on the cover and they were like, okay, 7 days. He got shot and he died 7 days later. And Biggie died 7 months after. People would do all this crazy math.
7 was everywhere. Yeah, 7 was everywhere.
The artwork, people were dissecting the artwork, and this is what this means. And it was like, dude, it was so much conspiracy around it at that time. Like, is he still?
Yeah. And even now, man, when you hear is it Damn? Kendrick says it on, but when he says something like he ends his verse something like, I might as well pretend I'm dead and go to Cuba. And I heard that and I was like, fuck, man, Kendrick, even now Tupac is around. Mind you, Mortal Man, like that was eerie the first time I heard Kendrick's Mortal Man because I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't expecting Tupac's voice. And to hear Tupac's voice come at the end of that
interview either. And I've heard almost all his I had never heard that interview before.
I don't even know where it's from. But that, it was as eerie as when you see a guy, and we talk about mythos, we talk about a guy who's bigger than the music. He had a fucking hologram, man. A hologram at a festival. Like, that doesn't happen. John Lennon doesn't have that. Like Bob Marley doesn't have that. They're incredible, but I don't know, there's something about Tupac that, I don't know, there was just something that spoke to a generation of people who I'd not really heard from in that way. I'd heard angry young men, of course, but nothing with the intelligence to be like, we need to do this. We need these community things. We need these. And when you hear stuff like on Makaveli, I did think that, the stories of him wanting out and is it One Nation? I can't remember. Is it One Nation he wanted to do? There was a movement or that was it, right?
Camp and all those,
Yeah, so for people who may not know, like listening, Andrew, man, tell me the story of what Pac was going to do if he'd have lived.
Yeah, I think those guys had all been out there, like Buckshot, Smith and Wesson. Some of the other people from Duck Down Records were out there, and they were going to do this One Nation. And most of it has leaked. Like if you go to, a lot of these leaked on bootlegs, on the Makaveli bootlegs back in the day. But like if you go to YouTube and you can search these songs, and like he has songs with Buckshot and Smith and Wesson, and he has the One Nation album was supposed to like just pair people that Pac thought were like real artists, not Bad Boy, not Jay-Z or Nas, but like people that he rocked with from coast to coast, the South. Like he had planned to have Goody Mob on it. West Coast, he wanted like the Loonies on it, and
Scarface, I think, was one as well.
Yeah,
Bone Thugs.
Right. I'm trying to think who else was on. Like he had Hammer on it. Big Daddy
hold on.
Greg Nye.
I've heard a rumor. I'm not sure if it was clarified, but Outkast was supposed to be on this project or go with him to this next chapter. And I just keep thinking of Outkast now and thinking, imagine Tupac with them two at that time. And it'd have been incredible.
Because Goody Mob, if you look, there's interview, like if you look at there's footage of the Hit 'Em Up session. I think he was doing Hit 'Em Up and Good Life on the same time. And Goody Mob was in the studio. Goody Mob was in the studio when he did Hit 'Em Up.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Like there's
Damn.
interviews with like Big Gip talking about it and stuff like that.
Snap. I didn't know that, man. So
Mhm.
this is what I mean. There's this what if as well that goes with it. And you say that about Nas, but there's stories that he made up with Nas. And you then think, God, I wonder if they'd have done a track around that time. It's just what ifs, right?
Because he would have
Yeah.
eventually squashed the beef with Big and been cool with
Mm.
everybody again. You know, that was just a, you know, I mean, it was
Yeah.
real, but at the same time, it was, you know, he
Yeah.
knew, Tupac knew what it took to move the needle and get people talking and be provocative. He knew how
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Dude, the Makaveli is that album just such a turn from what other stuff he was doing at the time. And if you
Yeah.
look, like there's other iterations of that album that, you know, maybe it was going to include Happy Home, I think was supposed to maybe be on there.
Mm.
And then what was the other one? End's Nature was supposed to be on there. So like they had played with the track
Oh.
list a little bit. And I remember I've seen a picture of the original back cover, and it had like Dr. Dre in a compromising situation. It had Puff Daddy in a
Oh.
tutu, and it had like Biggie like with like looking like a pig, like on a plate, I think. So like
Shit.
it was dark, and I know that they said he wanted to do like a mixtape. He wanted
Mm.
it to be like before, like, you know,
Mm.
obviously there had been mixtapes out in places, but like, you know, he wanted
Yeah.
to make it like on the streets. He wanted to make it like a
Yeah.
street release only.
Damn. Because then that makes me think this is like Little Wayne then. Like Little Wayne was doing stuff like that years after.
Years
And
after.
again, when you think of the runs that we've done, who else has influenced Naughty's acts like that? Like I can't think of any runs in the 90s that have done that as masterfully as Pat. I mean, look at the like you said there. He's recorded so much in such a short amount of time that they just basically raped and pillaged his
Right.
his like work, and you just think he would have just released over and over and over again and let us down at times for sure, but bang, still bring them classics, man. But man, Andrew, I'm enjoying this idea that the what ifs. I mean, I just can't stop thinking that now because the myth and stuff, and there's very few acts I think you can really do that about. Biggie for sure you can, but Biggie almost reached such a zenith on Life After Death that he wasn't doing the other stuff outside of the music that you could be like, you know, talking about. So yeah, I'm feeling it, man. I'm feeling it. I was going to ask you because there's hardly any features on the first album, loads of features on the second album, and the third album again, not so many.
It's mainly his crew. Other
Yeah,
than like the R&B singers on
yeah,
Toss It Up, and then he had Badass on Crazy,
crazy. Yeah,
and he was Dog Pound, you know, affiliated. So,
yeah,
you know, that was really it. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know if I'm missing anybody, but he didn't have a lot of, you know, it was internal. He had the Outlaws on there, really.
yeah. So, what would you if you had to put a non-90s act or rapper on one of these albums? Which one would you? Which artist do you think would have just worked really well?
Like an artist that came out after the
The
90s,
'90s, yeah, yeah. After the
an
'90s,
act
yeah.
in the 90s or after,
After.
that would have fit well with like Tupac.
Mm.
I don't know. Um,
He had so many on All Eyes on Me, but mm.
hmm.
Tough one, right?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one. I gotta. Who would he have fit really well with that was coming into like the new millennium space?
Do you know what? Oh no, Little Wayne is '90s, but I was gonna say him and Wayne would have been good. I think that would have been quite a good marriage, but he's '90s. Um,
I mean, they damn near put him on songs with all kinds of people after he died that didn't sound
true, 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 true.
that didn't make any
Um,
sense. Like it was like Tupac and Jazzy Fizzle Product Shizzle was like this. These two things don't really go together.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. It'd be interesting to see where his sound would have gone like afterwards for sure. I think he would have jumped on obviously the boot camp clip, but I think he'd have jumped on
50
the
Cent,
lecture
dude,
as well.
he would have done well with 50 Cent.
That is a shout. And 50's referenced him, I think.
They
Yeah,
had that
clearly
one
he has,
song. I mean,
definitely.
they had I forget
Not
the,
All Eyes on Me.
was it Realest Killers or whatever the one he had with Tupac.
Yeah.
They had one, but
Yeah. 50's a shout. 50 is a
you know,
great shout. So,
everybody started taking Tupac's. Everybody took notes from Tupac and started marketing. They started recording like Tupac after he died. You know, how many artists have referenced, they record like Tupac, like have the work ethic. So then it wasn't just, hey, we're just gonna record enough songs to put on an album and that's it. No, it was like we're gonna record a ton of songs that we have them left over. We're gonna shoot videos. We're gonna be controversial. We're gonna get tattoos.
yeah.
I'm not saying
Tattoos.
tattoos weren't around then, but I think he definitely helped make it. You didn't see him like that's what people that's why they were always photoing him, because like rappers, you didn't. That was kind of like a different thing now. It wasn't like it is now where everybody has tattoos.
Yeah.
He was like a rock star rebel, type of artist, and so many people bit his concepts. They bit the way that he marketed controversy, and even just his rhyme style. Like we talked about this earlier. Like how many people, Ja Rule to whoever, they were taking Tupac songs and flipping them and making them, and even Jay-Z.
Yeah. Me and my girlfriend, man. Yeah. Yeah. It's true. It's true. Yeah, just looking back at that and thinking
Kanye's most famous tweet, he's running around like he's Pac. Like he's still, no matter what, people can make fun of Tupac all they want and diss him on Twitter, but he's still the most influential rapper of all time. Like man. To me, he's still the biggest rapper of all time. I'm not saying, he's my personal greatest, but that's debatable.
Yeah.
The most famous and copied in history, it has to be Tupac.
Okay. So, because that's kind of just version to what I was going to say to you, was if you could give me a 30-second conclusion to why you think this run should win, you good to do that?
Look at what it did. The things that I just named. Look at all the stuff that came after those 3 albums after he passed. It changed the way artists recorded.
Mm-hmm.
The Makaveli bootlegs were basically mixtapes that kept his name in the streets, even though he had passed away. He has so much songs out there. I think he, in a way, made it really all about sales. Like he was one of the artists that was like, I'm selling more than everybody else. It became that. He started the double disc trend. Even though Master P did it first. Down Hustlers predates, but that was a compilation. It wasn't a solo album. But Tupac was the first solo rap artist to drop a double album, double CD. Somebody was like, "Oh, he's a DJ on the rapper Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince is a double album technically, but it wasn't like a sold as a double disc in stores. It wasn't it wasn't like it was a double LP if you had it on vinyl, but like it wasn't a double. You didn't have to pay more for it in the store, like you had to pay more. All Eyes on Me. That was $30. It wasn't All Eyes on Me wasn't $16.99 or $15.99. That was a $30, $28 CD. You had to pay double for that. And look how influential he became after that. How many artists came out in the immediate 5 to 10 years after he passed, trying to emulate Tupac in some way, from the way he acted, the way he dressed, the way he tied his bandana, everybody wanted to be Pac. I'm the new Pac. I'm the new Tupac. I'm this. I'm that. They still say that.
Yeah.
25 years after he's passed, people still want to be that. People still reference him.
Yeah. He gets referenced all the time.
Drake just got those Tupac Jesus pieces made. Kanye's famous "He Run Around Like He Pac" tweet. Basically No Limit kind of piggybacked off what Tupac did to become the biggest label after he passed. Jay-Z. Even not Jay-Z, had a big single that Kanye produced after he passed. Me and 903 Bonnie and Clyde or whatever. Eminem. Eminem comes a few years later. He uses that same type of concept for me and my dog, just the two of us or whatever.
It's true.
He just became just such a huge pop culture figure where he's celebrated around the world in other countries. It's not like he was just big in the United States. Like he's big everywhere. He's
Yeah,
big everywhere
global.
that may not have known any other rapper. Like you can go to, countries, you know, all over the
Mm.
planet that don't even speak English at all, and there you can find a Tupac mural over there or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. It's true, man. Man, that's that's a very good summary. Yeah, I can't really think of the retort to that. So yeah, well done. You smashed it. But yeah, well, man, there we go. People, get in touch with us. Let us know what you think to Andrew's argument for Tupac. I've just fucking loved chatting Tupac with you, man. And this is a run that delivers today. So people, get listening to them albums, man. Still can't believe those are the 5 most streamed, by the way. That's crazy.
Yeah, man.
Um,
And it's nuts. And like, there's so much stuff out there like that are
mm,
just that never had proper releases that is also incredible that you can find on YouTube, like the OG versions of a lot of these songs that, he
mm,
maybe never intended to put out or he wanted to put out, but then it didn't come out until after he passed, and they had, taken the vocals and put them on different beats, like taking the Johnny
yeah,
production off and put it on the Jazzy Faye beat or Eminem beat or whoever. And
yeah.
I urge people, if you're not familiar with like a lot of that stuff that came out, like go listen to, and I have a link if people want them. You can hit me
Mm,
up of original OG versions of Tupac that were on the Makaveli bootlegs that,
yeah, man.
I need to do a story on those one day because,
Yeah.
6 months to a year after Tupac died, hundreds of songs end up on the
Oh, yeah.
street on CDs at mom and pop record shops. I don't know if they had traveled across the pond to where you guys are, but like
Mm,
in the US, you could get them at any, like you had to meet, they were like $30. Like it was
mm.
if you had Makaveli bootlegs, like you were important.
See, I don't even know what were bootlegs or not at that time because when it was like 99, people were just ripping stuff off the internet, making their own CDs and just selling them where at my university or whatever. And I don't even know if they were legit or whatever. But
Right.
am I paying £5 for that? Yes, I'm going to pay my fiver.
Right.
Like, give me
Right.
some new Tupac. Um, so yeah, you're right, absolutely. And the fact that it's God, it must be like 13 or some albums or 10 albums or something afterwards where you're like, that is a lot of material. And that's very 2020, man. People,
Yeah.
and very no limit. Just keep dropping content, keep dropping
Just
albums. And
dropping content. Right. Right.
that's it. And Pat would have reveled that, man. He was just so good at it. Genius. There was one moment I remember seeing an interview. The guy was like, I'm talking to Tupac, and his other hand is writing rhymes. And that's a weird, like, genius level. Like to
Yeah.
hold a
That's great.
conversation.
My brain couldn't. I
Yeah,
couldn't do that. I can't even. I
yeah.
can't really
To
walk.
be able to do that. Yeah, man, crazy. Well, Andrew, man, thank you so much for bringing this fire. Absolutely. I need to ask you though, man, what's next for you, man? What's going on? What can we expect from you next, man? Like, what's on the agenda?
Man, really just trying to figure it out, man. Trying to get through, trying to get through this year. But I still work
Yeah,
with Valet. Hopefully, we'll get Valet's album out this year, his debut album on Good Music
wicked.
Jam. Hopefully, so still doing a playlist on Apple Music for the New Chicago. We update that every
Nice.
week. Still have the radio show on Shade 45 every week. Doing a lot of, I did a lot of live events and things like that, but that's obviously on hold now. And
Mm-mm.
just got a few irons in the fire. So
Yeah.
hopefully I have some good announcements soon. But just trying to, work on some new things and keep bringing cool content out there. Stay
Mm.
tuned to the Twitter. We're always trying to give, interesting things out on there. So at Facial
Nice, man.
Guide, be sure to follow on socials and stay in tune.
Yeah, man. I put all the details in the commentary and stuff like that for you guys in the show notes for sure. But yeah, man. Before you leave us, then I've got a few things to ask you. I ask every guest. One, we got these playlists going at the moment, which are like slept on Wu-Tang bangers and slept on Primo bangers.
So slept on Wu Tang. I like stuff that was on like compilations or soundtracks that people forgot about, like Wu
Yeah,
Wear,
yeah, yeah.
Garment Renaissance. That's one of my favorite Wu Tang songs ever. That's
I thought you
RZA,
could say Diesel. For some reason, I thought you could say Diesel.
RZA, Meth, and Cap. I think were on that one for the New Year,
Ooh,
strictly Wu Wear. Um, the other day I was
nice.
playing Cobra Clutch, Ghostface.
Cobra
Yeah,
Clutch. I don't even think I've heard
you've
that.
heard Cobra Clutch before. It's
Hold
on the
on.
swing.
I'm awful with track names, so I
You
need to
gotta
check
look at
this
it.
out.
You know Cobra Clutch. There's a video for it.
Oh, right.
There's a
The
video.
video. He's got the video for that as well, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
Mate, that's a callback. I've not heard that in so long.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was on
Cobra Clutch.
The Swarm.
The Swarm. The bees on the front. Yeah, I remember.
You remember the cover.
Yeah.
How could you forget? You can't forget that icon.
No, man.
Um,
That's like early noughties, right? Or something. Can't remember now, but yeah.
It was late. That was like Bobby. It was around Bobby Digital time, I think. Because that was supposed to be on the Bobby Digital movie soundtrack. I still want the Bobby Digital movie to come out.
Oh snap! Of course, yeah. That's got to come out, man. Riz has got all that juice now. He can do that, man.
It's sitting around doing nothing.
Shit. Bring it, man. Bring it.
Underrated Primo. What's the Pitch Black song?
Oh,
All Real. What's the Pitch Black song? Dude, that song was great.
Hold on.
It's All Real. Pitch Black.
It's All Real.
Great underrated Primo song. Great underrated Primo beat.
Man, I am going to dig into that one straight away because I can't remember that one either. Jesus, I do. See, this is what I'm saying. Andrew's got that knowledge, man. He's bringing that fire. That's what I'm talking about.
I don't know where I pulled those from, but check those out. Those are good ones.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Well, Andrew, man, I hope 2020 pans out well for you, mate.
There's the one. Check out the Primo song on Jermaine Dupri's Life in 1472. It's got Snoop on.
There's a Primo song on that.
Yeah, it's like Snoop, Warren G. It was the first time they were all rapping on a Primo song.
I don't even remember listening to that album that much. I remember that came out. I heard it like once, so I don't even think I actually properly dug in.
I think that's a great album because there's a lot of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see.
Right. Okay. Because I remember I had that.
That is Snoop Dogg, Rock, Warren G, Protectors of 1472, and it's a Primo beat. It's crazy. Check it out.
Damn, Andrew. Wow. Snoop and yeah, I'm in. The recipe is there, man, for sure. Andrew, you should do a podcast just doing these, mate. Just dropping these.
Everybody keeps saying I need to do a podcast, but I don't know what I would do, so I got to figure it out. Maybe one day.
Mate, come here, man. If I get some money, I'll give you some money. You can come on as a residency. Just do stuff for us, mate. I love that. Someone pay us so we can do that. Come on, let's do it.
That's what I'm saying, man. Let's do it.
Yeah, man. But Andrew, thank you again. Really appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man.
It's all good, dude. It's my pleasure. We've been planning this for like 3 months, I feel like. So, man, you're really passionate about it. I love it. I think it's great what you're doing. To me, it's an honor and a pleasure to be a guest on here and that anybody would care about what I have to say. So I appreciate you for having me on and, thank you for including me.
Thank you, Andrew, man. Perfect. I will give you a shout out when this all goes out for sure. There is one last thing then before you do leave us. What is the last great piece of music you heard? Could be old, could be new, but just the last great thing. And it can't be Tupac because obviously we talked about him.
Like that's new that I just heard? Like,
or even old, or just the last track you heard where you're like, damn, that is fire.
Man, you know what I've been thinking, my stuff that I've been listening to the most this year is Boldy James. I've been playing Boldy James, and like I really like the Versace tape, and I love the price of tea in China. Those are two of my favorites.
Unbelievable. We had him on the pod. I don't know if you heard the interview with us, but he was incredible, man. Like, if you go check out our pod, Westside Gun just jumped out of nowhere, by the way. I was just recording with him, and Westside Gun just comes out of nowhere in his red, like, Versace robe with his blunt, just like, what's up, UK? Bang, leave.
Sick.
What? Westside Gun, that's yeah,
so cool. So Boldy, I met Boldy like 10, 12 years ago, because he's Chuck English's cousin. And so Chuck used to have me come to the studio a lot because he would play Cool Kids records that were unreleased, stuff they were working on. He would bring me to the studio to sit and chill and listen to it. And, Boldy would be there just chilling. He'd be like, this is my cousin from Detroit. He'd just be sitting there smoking, chilling, not saying anything. But he was always cool. So I've known Boldy for years, and I've always thought he was dope. So it's great to see him, have such a big breakthrough year. It's really incredible.
Yeah. There's very rare you see a rapper that stage of their career not just blowing up, which is amazing. He should get all the respect he's getting. Griselda, fair play. Like, that's all good. But also just so fucking creative, man. Like, I don't know if you heard Main Drum McNichols, but that for me, I know it's based more in earlier stuff he's done as well. But that album, I'm like, Yeah, that boy is just crazy right now. He's on a great run. So
Yeah,
yeah, I
I'm
feel you,
happy
man.
for him. So I've been heavy on his stuff this year for sure.
Wicked, man. Wicked. I like it. Well, Andrew, I won't keep you any longer, man. I'm gonna go listen to some Tupac.
Oh, you know
Uh,
one other artist you can check out, Vince Ash. He's from Hammond, Indiana. He has a. Are you up on him? He has this new project.
I
Passion to Watch.
what's the track again that I love? No. What's the track? I've got it here. Hold on. I'm awful with track names. What it G
Yeah.
like? I had that down for our mid-season, like mid-year review. That track is crazy.
Yeah, check him out. You already know. I can't get anything past you. You know what's going on. So,
mate, come on, man. You school me on like woo and primo bangers. But no, Vince Ash, yeah, I second Andrew on checking him out as well. I'm excited to see what he does next. So, but yeah, man, thank you again, bro. You take it easy.
No doubt. Okay.
We should catch you soon, man.
Have me back on. I'll come back on anytime. All right. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Appreciate it. Okay.
Yeah, man. Cool.
Thanks,
Peace,
bro.
mate.
All right.
Cheers, man.
Peace.